So in this edition of Under the Radar, the ongoing issue some women have with equality, namely that they can't handle it and need preferential treatment. So firstly, as happens every Australia Day, the Australia Day Honours List was announced. In brief, the Australian Honours System celebrates the outstanding achievements and contributions of extraordinary Australians in a diverse range of fields and areas of endeavour. It's about recognising those people in the community whose service and contributions have had the effect of making a significant difference to Australian life, or more broadly, to humanity at large. The Australian Honours System recognises the actions and achievements of people who go above and beyond what could be reasonably expected, and in doing so, encourages national aspirations and ideals of the highest community standards and values. Okay, so what's the problem? Well, there aren't enough women winning those awards, of course. Australia Day Honours, Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley and Tracy Spicer on male-dominated list. Just 33% are women of 900 notable names across media, medicine, science, advocacy, sport and politics. But because we're The Guardian, we made 2/3 of the photos of the recipients women, because that's accurate. Just 1 in 3 of the almost 900 people named in the Australia Day Honours List on Friday are women. They were chosen from a pool of nominees who in many categories can be put forward by anyone. That was just 32% women. Notable names on the 2018 Honours List include the journalist Tracy Spicer, former Senator Meg Lees, Federal Liberal Party Director Brian Loughnane, and sporting stars such as former Australian netball captain Liz Ellis and the late Golden Girl of Athletics, Betty Cuthbert. Why are those 5, of which 4 are female, notable names? Oh, silly me, I just answered my own question. Now, of course, nowhere in this article or any other article I've seen on this topic does anyone address or attempt to explain why there are more men than women on this list. It's now just received wisdom by gender activists that if women are not 50% of a certain group, then this must be due to gender inequality, a conclusion that has absolutely no foundation, and of course, one that is only invoked when women are less than 50% of said category. I mean, it might be worth mentioning that 4 of the categories on the official page are military categories, so why would you expect to see a roughly even split of men and women in those categories when it's heavily male-dominated? Dare I ask the question, are there more men out there achieving in the area of science, technology and research? Well, we do know there are definitely more men working in those fields, so again, it would make more sense that more men are receiving awards. So what to do about this sexist scourge plaguing our society? Frustrated at the poor representation of women in Australia's national honours, a group of Melbourne-based campaigners has called on the federal government and Governor-General Sir Peter Cosgrove to introduce new gender targets for the awards. Yeah, because when you can't compete on a level playing field, just get the government to intervene and tilt the playing field in your favour. After women remained significantly underrepresented in nominations for the 2017 Australia Day and Queen's Birthday Honours, Elizabeth Hartnell-Young, Ruth McGowan and Carol Kiernan launched the Honour a Woman initiative, pushing for a 40% target for female recognition by 2019. By 2020, the group wants a 50-50 split between men and women. The group has called on the Council of the Order of Australia to agree to restrict the number of men receiving honours if the proposed targets for women can't be met, because equality. Another piece of information that I glossed over is that those people nominated are nominated by the general public. A government panel ultimately decides who gets the awards, but those up for consideration are nominated by the public. So if people want to nominate more women, they absolutely can. There's nothing stopping anyone from doing that. In this article in the Sydney Morning Herald, we learned that the female nominees increased from 31% in 2017 to 33% in 2018. And better still, women have a higher conversion rate, taking out 35% of the honours. So again, women aren't being turned away, they're just not being nominated enough. So get out there and nominate. And that's exactly what Ruth McGowan said, one of the organisers of this Honour a Woman initiative. We need to nominate, and this is where you and I come in. We need to nominate women. Yeah, the most important thing to consider is not a person's contribution, but that they are women. That's not sexist at all, is it? Now, over in England, despite women being 60% of university students, it seems they haven't attained complete supremacy. And so at Oxford University, they decided to help the women's out in math and computer science by giving them an extra 15 minutes to complete their exams. Oxford University gives women more time to pass exams. Oxford University exam times were increased in a bid to improve the low scores of women. Students taking maths and computer science examinations in the summer of 2017 were given an extra 15 minutes to complete their papers after Dons ruled that female candidates might be more likely to be adversely affected by time pressure. There was no change to the length or difficulty of the questions. It was the first time such steps had been taken. In previous years, the percentage of male students awarded first-class degrees was double that of women, and in 2016, the Board of Examiners suggested that the department make changes to improve women's grades. But why do women's grades need to be improved? Their score is their score. Are you doing the same thing throughout all departments in the university? Now, just to be clear, the males also got the extra 15 minutes, not just the females, but it didn't change the results. However, despite the intention being to lessen gender discrepancies, the main effect of the time increase appears to have been an increase in the number of 2-to-1s overall, with 2-to-2 figures falling. Men continued to be awarded more first-class degrees than women in the two subjects. So in other words, more women received first-class degrees, but the discrepancy in the scores remained. Or another way to look at it is a degree from Oxford in these subjects is now of slightly less value. A university spokesman defended the changes as academically demanding and fair. What, you mean just as demanding as, say, an exam that's 15 minutes shorter? And noted that while 39% of female mathematicians achieved first-class degrees compared to 47% of men, women's scores had improved year on year. Well, why not give them an extra 30 minutes and you can bump more people up and devalue the degree even further at the same time? Now, over at Business Insider, there was a quote from a student which was interesting. Antonia Sir, an undergraduate representative of Oxford Women in Computer Science, and I'm sure there's an Oxford Men in Computer Science, told The Telegraph, "I am uneasy about schemes to favour one gender over another." Wait for it, here comes the but I'm happy to see when people see gaps between groups of people who should not reasonably have such gaps, such as between genders, races or class, and take that as a starting point to think about the kinds of people they unintentionally leave behind. But why do you just get to assert that there shouldn't be such gaps? Shouldn't you have to provide evidence for those assertions? Now, on that theme, I want to play a piece from a recent video by the always excellent Coltane.
In the same way that the London Marathon results are indicative of physical ability, the data that we have amassed about preferred fields of study and job engagement can also serve as a yardstick for mental ability. In fact, if we break down academic fields of study by the average IQ estimated from SAT entry scores and then graph that against the percentage of female participation for each subject, we see a very clear trend. Cognitive intelligence and success within certain fields are absolutely connected, and that trend further correlates with the so-called gender preferences we observe. I think that this graph rather neatly highlights the problem that, to the extent one continues to argue women aren't dumb, just disinterested, that would still beg the question, why? Say that you ignore all the evidence you've just seen and stringently stick to the egalitarian explanation that men and women are equally intelligent and just have innately different preferences. So that's why we see the different outcomes. It's all explained by gender preferences and nothing more. Sure, okay, great, but why? Why do women have these different preferences? Beyond that, why do their preferences so consistently correlate to a clear avoidance of activities that require higher mental investment? I've seen some people try to claim that it's because women aren't as interested in bragging rights or competing in the status hierarchy. But frankly, I don't think that's true. Women are all about status and power. They love telegraphing it through diamond rings, expensive fashionable clothes, bragging about which social circles they move through. Status is not the primary issue here. It seems to be very specifically about an avoidance of mental expenditure. If I had to guess, I would say that it is for the exact same reason that at a stance of 6'4", I am not an Olympic gymnast. We tend to gravitate towards and enjoy things that we have a natural aptitude for. Even ignoring everything that we currently know about quantitative IQ and qualitative brain differences, explaining these disparate outcomes as gender preferences ultimately still lands you at the same foregone conclusion: that women on average do not have the same aptitude for these activities and are therefore less likely than men to show a preference for and pursue these activities. Gender preferences. Yes, how convenient that women prefer activities which don't require as much brain power.
When are we going to actually recognise that men not only have more interest in STEM subjects, but dare I say it, more aptitude for STEM subjects, and stop the charade that men and women are equal in every way? Of course, the gender ideologues will naturally misrepresent what's being said here in their best Cathy Newman voice and claim crap like, "So you're saying women can't do STEM?" No, I'm absolutely not saying that, because I'm not an identitarian ideologue that thinks everyone should be judged by an average. I think everyone should be assessed on their individual merits. And when you do that, you find there are plenty of women capable of doing STEM subjects, just not in the same numbers as men. And it's about time we accepted that fact rather than waste more time and money on useless programs. I'll see you next time.